So this is a video that my sister sent me. We were talking about some things, and then so this video that I'm about to show you. This is sure.
Oh.
So the video that we're about to look at is a video that my sister sent me. She said that in the YouTube community, the people that she watched, black women are now having they're going to other races now. They're trashing black men in general right now. A lot of popular black YouTubers are women in particular are telling black women to go to other races, and so she sent me this. Kiana sent me this video. It's something that she watched. It's by Cynthia G. And it says, "White Zaddy explains why black men can't be high value, and guess who's bad." So let's go ahead and get into it. Yeah.
We don't think that getting attention from black guys gives you a status of some sort. If you get attention from the white guys, you do have the status more than if you get attention from black guys.
As a man, I'm going to have to respectfully disagree with that.
Well, as a woman who gets attention and who grew up in a white culture more than a black culture, I'm going to tell you that getting attention from black guys is not a badge of honor if you're white.
Okay.
And I'm white.
You are white.
Yes.
854.
So off the rip, I don't feel like there's anything bad what she said. I think it's true on both accounts, honestly. Like, yeah, especially if most of the world sees black people as at the bottom of the totem pole. I feel like that's true both ways. So
I wonder why they included that clip.
Because she's trashing black men in general. She wants anything that's talking bad on black men. She puts on her channel.
If you're on the line.
Hey, long time listener calling in to talk about Tariq Nasheed. I want to get your opinion on his newest breaking documentary.
I haven't watched it.
It's really strange because it's perpetuating a victim complex within black men. It kind of feels like it's enabling more laziness within their community, perpetuates more blame behaviors by blaming people like me, I guess, whose ancestors did something.
You mean when you mean people like you, are you saying you're a white man?
I want to get your opinion.
Well, hold on. First I have to...
Perpetuating feminine role on men.
Right, so...
I want to get your opinion on it.
Right. So when you say people like you, you're a white man, I would assume then, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I haven't watched the buck breaking movie. But one thing I will agree with is that the only thing that Tariq sets out to do is perpetuate a victim narrative. I will say that because at the end of the day, I mean, I think if black men feel like you guys are oppressing them, it's because they're letting you. It's really that simple. But I haven't seen the movie.
I can't agree with that. And the reason why is because now I see what she's trying to get at, but for her to just completely dismiss it and saying that if black men feel oppressed by white men, it's because they're letting you do that. It's not true. The fuck? Because first off, she don't want to bring up the fact that how many times have black women been refused to even go to school because of their hair? It's like there's this white culture in general that oppresses certain aspects of black community. It's not even just black men. Black men, that's something else entirely. I mean, we look at police brutality as something else altogether that is something that black men in general keep on their conscience. It's like we can't do certain things. My own mother told me when she moved me out of the hood into like a suburban area, she said, "Look, you can't do the same thing as some of your white friends do. I know they're going out and they go playing in these construction yards and stuff like that. You can't do that. They're gonna think you're stealing. You can't do that." Like my own mother told me that shit, like when I was young. And so for her to say that white men are not oppressing black men, they may not be doing it actively, And I think it's different in these times. I do think there are a lot of things that black men in general do that do hold themselves back. But to just dismiss it and saying that in general, black men are just holding themselves back over the white oppression and shit like that, I can't get all the way on board with that.
I'm gonna see where she goes with that.
Okay.
You should watch it. It's very interesting, and black women are the most educated demographic across America. So, I put my hand up for that. If you want to get an education, you want to better yourself, you want to, perpetuate good life behaviors and push away negativity, that's great. That one documentary in particular really touched deep into me because it really, it pushes black men further into a submissive role, to kind of LARP through the oppression of your ancestors as an excuse to not do anything today.
Oh, he's saying that that's what the documentary is perpetuating.
Yeah, something like that. But the thing is just I have an issue with about a white man speaking about the state of black men, and then he can say great things about the black woman. That's cool. But the issue I have about this is that first off, men compete with each other. Men, we kind of talked about the Genghis Khan thing. Men actively try to one up the other guys. It's in my personal opinion that black women in general most of the times would treat other races in a much more favorable position than other black men. But I'm not even coming in from this point. I'm trying to think about it. What if this was a man and there was a white woman calling in and then talking bad on black women? Like, we would have an outrage. But it's okay for a white man to come in and call her and talk about the state of black men being submissive, being XYZ. It just doesn't sit right at all, honestly.
I mean, we'd have to look at the comments to see what people's response are towards his commentary, right? To see whether or not, how they feel about a white man speaking on the documentary and then including his making commentary about black men through that documentary. Right?
I mean, that'd be interesting, but why do we have to look at the comments of what people say?
Well, because you're saying that there's no backlash for what she did, but I don't know if there's no backlash. I was just wondering, maybe the comments say that or something like this.
So we got a woman. I really like when he said no one has to teach him how to be man or masculine. Whatever he does is masculine because he is a man. Mm-hmm. Imagine thinking a married man is a simp because he takes care of responsibilities. When you're married, you're responsible for your spouse and children's well-being. That was supposed to be doing, weirdos. Brian was able to make his point without bashing white women or mentioning weave or wigs. He's not black or married to a black woman, and he can see right through the BS. It's sad and embarrassing. Without bashing white women. I don't understand how the black men expect you to be. This is a quote, so I guess he said this. I don't understand how black men expect you to be feminine when they've taken the feminine role. I work at a clinic. These are all women.
Gotcha.
Saying these things. Brian had to leave because, unlike many Dusties, he actually has responsibility. He can't be online all day arguing with women like someone else we know.
You know what Dusties are?
It sounds like a derogatory term for black people, for black men.
It's specifically towards low value black men. What they feel are men that, try and waste your time, that don't bring anything to the table, that are, not of good quality or character and all these other things. It's not a...
So Dusties is in general to black men?
It's in general to low value men, not black men specifically. However, because we're obviously speaking about black men, she's probably referring to low quality black men, not black men in general. From what I've watched from women who make content regarding the men and women dating debacle and commenting on the black community, they've used the term dusty towards low quality, low value men.
Kind of like the way we would say ratchets to low quality women.
Yeah.
Okay. After this original airing, I took a flight to LA, sat next to a white man who initiated convo. Once he realized how highly educated and successful that I am, he explained his admiration for the black woman. He is from France and happily married, but had high praise for the state of black women. Before this video, I agreed to never speak to others about black issues. This man was shocked at the single mother rate in the community and put all the onus on black men. It's refreshing to hear these men who aren't racist, to be honest. Look at that, a man having a decent conversation with a black woman without sharing her about her height, weight, and dress size, and whether or not she's married.
That's what Kevin Samuels did.
Of course, and it's so interesting to hear these comments because once again, this is someone that's outside of the community.
Who?
Talking. Well, this white guy.
Oh, okay.
The white man is outside the community talking about the state of black women and black men.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just really weird. Black man was running towards Jordan sneakers. That's what took them out of the household. Getting attention to black guys is not a badge of honor. Just pointing out to Dusty's, Brian is a married man with children who lives with his wife and still uses condoms. You don't hear him complaining. The successfully employed straight homo-owning man who lives in one of the most expensive cities in the world doesn't think twice about using condoms because he doesn't want to get his wife pregnant. You shouldn't complain about using condoms with the woman you're not married to. Stop the excuses. This is just weird in general. Like, I don't know.
I think when people make commentary like that, it's because something in that video struck a chord with them and they feel really strongly about a topic, and that's their opportunity to voice their opinion on a topic that they feel strongly about.
You're right. And it's so interesting reading these comments. Is mainly like all of these comments, like all of them are in unison. It's like they're all on the same page. And they're obviously referring to Kevin Samuels because he's got 1 million subscribers. Like, these people are really trying to, like, discount and discredit the stuff that Kevin Samuels is talking about.
Where?
Well, all of these women. They're all referring to, when they're saying, oh, another man who's having a rational conversation without mentioning height, weight, that's obviously referring to Kevin Samuels.
Yeah, that one, definitely. But
Most of these are. I don't understand how black men can expect you to be feminine when they're taking a feminine role. So for her to even put this out here, there's obviously she should watch Kevin Samuels. He has spoken about this. Even Shahrazad Ali has spoken about this.
I feel like that's a general topic that I feel I've heard in general, not specifically towards Kevin Samuels, but just commentary about masculinity of black women and the femininity of black men, and how, you know, both genders are being pulled in a direction that doesn't suit them. Like, black women are becoming more masculinized, black men are becoming more feminized, and these sort of things. And people will have commentary as to how that happens and where the source is from. But I feel like, you know, when, like, I think a lot of this commentary is more like they're hearing the conversation, but really what they're commenting is coming from them, not that they're actually making constructive commentary about the video.
Yeah, that's something else that I've gone, like, if you make videos and you have commenters like commentating on your video, a lot of people don't even really talk about the video. They just express their own opinions, and that's really about it.
Yeah.
Now this right here is interesting, right? It says his laugh when you asked, "Are you threatened by black men?" He laughed at that. So I guess we definitely have to still finish the video to really see what they're talking about.
Want to go back to the video?
Yeah, we can get back to the video. I already kind of figure out, I know how this is gonna go, but let's definitely check it out.
And your children and, you know, the elderly people in your community, crime moguls in your community. It's kind of just weird that that kind of video would come out at a time like this when there's supposed to be empowerment for people in your community, when it's just nonstop negativity, draining the life force out of black women who are doing all of the legwork, all of it. You're doing everything on your own. There's no help for you on the other end of your community.
So let me ask you something, because you have a lot of people in the chat box saying they don't believe that you're white. They believe that you're black or biracial.
No. I grew up in Westchester County, New York. I grew up 20 miles from George Soros in a town called Yorktown Heights, where Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
He said it means nothing.
That means
my name is Brian.
Why doesn't it?
Because a black person could very easily come from those circumstances. I think the only way you can prove your whiteness is if you actually show your face. Not where you live or the school you went to, as if black people don't have access to living in those types of areas or being in proximity to those type of things.
This is so interesting. I was telling Kiana about this, but Simone, my sister, she has a friend that is white, obviously, and he's long story short, what I was telling her was that white men grow up differently, and white men and white women grow up differently in America. Like, they grow up thinking that they run the world. They see it all over the world and stuff like that. And so it is so uncommon for them to see black people in these areas. So for you to say something like that, for you to even have to say that, he obviously doesn't. That's not in his mind.
Yeah.
Simone is golfing.
This
with
is how
these
he's.
people.
Notice how he's proving his white identity.
Yeah, and so let me tell you this too. And then Simone, she golfs. She's in a golf club. She's a freshman. She's a golf club at her school. And so she's noticing more. There's black people on the golf course, rich black people. And I'm like, how do you know they're rich? She's like, you could just tell. And then she said, hey Travis, like I was telling Travis about him, like there's rich black people, and he's like, I never know there was such a thing. And they're in 9th grade. You know, and so
it's already these things have been set in stone at such a young age that it completely it keeps your perception of the world and of people extremely rigid.
It does, and so that is part of the reason why I have an issue with what he's saying. This it's because of what he's already saying. Like I can't take your word for what you say and speak on about the black community when you talk shit, when you have such a view of the world already like that. Like it reminds me of this in the slave days when they would just go fuck black women in general, like just do that shit. Like that's what I think of. That's how I think about it. I think that the state of the black community right now, we're in such disarray that it's open season for all the races on the black community. If it hasn't already been like that, it's open season for all the races now. All races can go get the men and the women without any problem. And do whatever and all they have to do is just bash the other race or bash the other gender, and then bam, got the black woman. Bam, got the black man. I can't believe that she doesn't treat you like that. Doug, come over here, baby. I got you.
I mean, that happens in any dysfunctional. I think that phenomena happens in any dysfunctional like situation. So if you're in a dysfunctional family, it's much easier for you to end up in the darker aspects of society. You're more susceptible to becoming a stripper at a young age, or having an abusive relationship, or ending up, in just a worse environment, because that wall that's supposed to be there to protect you from other things in the world and just keep you in that communal network has been broken apart because your family isn't functioning well. So now you're more susceptible. So I think if this is the case, then black men and black women are now more susceptible to be pulled away.
And we are, and it's because that wall that you're referring to, so many people grow up without that. So many people grow up without having any of that, and so it's open season. If quite honestly, if I were a white man, oh my god, I would pick off these black girls like that.
What do you mean?
Or if I was like some Asian dude, oh my god, easy. All I have to do is put on some Jordans, learn a little bit of the lingo, and then get some confidence. Hit on a black chick, easy. I swear.
Dude named Brian that speaks like me my whole life. I used to go into New York to have fun, go to like Miss Mamie's Spoon Bread down in Harlem and get some soul food and just go to Times Square and bust up heads with skateboards or do whatever. But no.
So let me ask you something. Since you're familiar with Tariq Nasheed, then that makes me believe you pay a lot of attention to stuff that happens in the black community. A lot of white people do, more than black people are willing to recognize. So what do you think about the fact that black men try to speak for y'all, white men, in terms of what y'all desire? Like, have you heard black men sitting up saying, well, white men don't want black women, and you guys need to do this, that, and the third to get a white man? So what do you think about black men trying to be you guys this mouthpiece in terms of what you actually desire?
Before we get into this, I don't know where she's kind of getting that from. I mean, I've heard that before. I've heard black men say that other races don't want black women.
I've heard it too.
And the thing is it's incomplete. Black women are beautiful. Everyone, like men in general, love women of all races. It doesn't really matter. What we care about are just your looks, your attitude. That's just really about it. When it comes to sex, men will fuck any race of woman. what people are, what the distinction that a lot of people aren't making is who they marry and what the marriage rates are. And there's a book called Dataclysm where the CEO of like OkCupid, they also like own Tinder and shit like that, came out with he released the statistics of the Tinder, the dating apps, and the statistics came out of black people being on the absolute bottom.
And what's the stat bottom one?
Like the rates of which that people got chosen, you know, like swipe right that you want them. Mm-hmm. All the races pretty much shows each other at the highest rate, except white. It showed that white men and this is actually inaccurate as fuck. Kevin Samuels and other people say that black men actually date out their side of their race at the highest rate of all men. That's actually even true. It's white men. White men actually date outside their race the highest rate of any race of men in the world. White men choose Asians and then other white women. Mm-hmm. And then black men and black women choose each other at the highest rate. All the other races choose the black counterparts at the absolute lowest. Mm-hmm. They choose every other race over black in general. And that's off of Dataclysm, which is Tinder. And they also own OkCupid. They also own I can't remember what else, but they own Tinder.
So you're saying that to tie into his commentary?
Yeah, I think I don't know what she's saying, because I don't know where she's kind of getting that from. I think white men, everyone likes everyone.
Well, the thing is that we can agree that we've heard that commentary. We've heard the commentary that black men have said about black women that white men don't like. We've heard that commentary, right? So we can agree that that is something that's been said. Now, what she does with that data, what she does with that is what we can make a judgment off of, I think.
Okay. Yeah. I can agree with that. Let's get into it.
Well, I mean, you really can't gatekeep my sexuality at all. You know, what I think is attractive and not. I'm more attracted to a person's success, educational standards, family background, religious practices, you know, what they want for the future. They want to build something, or are they just living in the moment? I'm not a live in the moment kind of person. I'm planning for the future. I have a lot of money saved back in case of emergencies. You know, I'm married. I have kids to take care of my family. I love and respect black women. Black men are a nuisance where I grew up, and it's more now than ever present danger within the metro New York City area because of very ostentatious and feminine behaviors being groomed into young black men.
Now that ending part has some truth in it, but the overall idea he's trying to say is that he's grown up in a world where his experience with black men is that they are a nuisance. So everything is going to stem from that idea that they're a nuisance. Yeah. So it seems like this woman obviously is giving him the free rein to make these comments. I think it's important to make a distinction. A lot of black people are not necessarily pro-black, so they can very easily allow like discussion and banter that's very anti-black, right? And this can come from both sides, whether it's black men or black women. Obviously, we're watching commentary from a black woman right now. So because she's allowing her platform to have these types of people, and it's not just like, it's one thing to just have someone there to make commentary and then you tear them down and be like, I don't believe that. She's obviously, part of her is siding with that type of idea, right? So she's going to be supporting commentary that is going to be anti-black man or just anti-black in general, because these are the type of covert, I think he's kind of like a kind of covert racist, where you kind of pick what you feel is the acceptable type of black person and then your middle finger to the other types of black people, you know what I mean? You'll call them a nuisance, you'll call them a nuisance, you'll call them this and that, and it gives you free reign to morph your racism into this like, oh yeah, it's just because it almost seems like a social justice warrior type of racism, where it's like you're cherry picking the type of black people that you like, and then, you know, you're allowing your more racist side to show when it comes to the more negative types of
it's like every other kind of black guy out there. Neil deGrasse Tyson, for instance, doesn't even fly under his radar at all. They don't exist. You know, those kind, and it's interesting because I said this before we got into this, and he's showing his true colors. Like I said, I feel like what men would do is denigrate and talk shit on the other men and just go after the women. And this is exactly what he's kind of doing.
So
you know?
do you think that that is a tactic that
it's
is
a subconscious? I don't think he's not consciously aware of it.
I mean, yeah, like, but what I'm wondering is, or rather trying to see, is that type of tactic is something that, for example, we have the book, which is The Art of War, right? And it gives you all of these, just all this information about how to kind of get psychologically and physically, like, to defeat your enemy, right? So if men are competing and are competitive, is this like a tactic to get the women? And is this something that, other men employ, or do you see it more prevalent in the black-white?
Well, that's a great question. I think in general, for a woman to even be receptive to this type of information, she's already discounted black men, or is on the edge of discounting black men in general. So he doesn't even have to compete. All he has to do is just put in these extra little words, and then that's it.
Yeah, it's like confirmation bias. So let's say she grew up and she had a lot of negative experiences with black men growing up. Let's say they commented on her weight, they commented on her, how big her nose is. Not that I think I'm just saying things that they comment on, right? Yeah. So she's growing up having a chip on her shoulder with the negative experiences she's had. So she's going to be susceptible to a white man who's going to say, yeah, they're a nuisance. Yeah, they are a nuisance.
Absolutely. And there's not going to be any pushback back. There's not going to be any kind of, like, the way that we're observing it and the way that we've picked apart some of the subtle things. They're not going to be able to, like, there's no competition necessarily if she's not even looking in that direction.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So
she's, for a man to do that, he's more or less just saying that I'm on your side. You can be safe with me because I know that they're a nuisance. I will protect you from them. I know they're making you, they're this and that, but I will do this for you.
Like, remember he made commentary about, I have a lot of money saved, I'm doing this with my life, and those are great things on paper, but I think that's also being made as a commentary, like, I'm better than this category of people.
Yes, and the thing that you also got to remember is that, like, white men have an issue with their own. White culture has their own issues, and white men and white women have sprinkled and try to filter out and try to get allies, and they come to other races to come and try to help them combat certain shit that's going on in their community.
Yeah, like, for example, the feminist movement and how it, takes in women of color, people of color, but when it comes down to issues that women of color and people of color face, white feminists are nowhere to be found a lot of the time.
They're quicker to get what they want out of the situation, and then when you try to recruit that same assistance, some may be able to help, but others will not. And back to what the woman said, she said, "I'm in the white community. Black attention isn't a prize." Now, because she's a white woman saying to the black men, we could also say the opposite.
What?
That it's not a prize for a white man to get attraction from a black woman. But let's think about it like this. What about with the white men that go into the dance and just dance, do some basic little dance and shit in black community? Men and women together praise that.
It's because white people, like, across the board have a lot of social mobility across different lines, whether it's the racial line or the nationality. White people can exist in Japan and China and not experience the level of racism a black person would if they lived in Japan or China. They have a lot more, like, social currency than any other group, both white men and white women. So they can definitely enter into black spaces and make moves and waves that
in the most of you're right.
Yeah.
I don't mean to cut you off. Most of us are not aware of that, and we still will applaud the white kid doing the Dougie when any other black person could do the Dougie, and we never care. Yeah. And we don't care. Like, that's another example of the way black people will praise and pedestalize white people that embrace the smallest bit of our culture. We put it to the highest of standards. And I want to say one last thing. I'm just noticing her skin complexion. Like,
what about it?
I said, but like, I feel like a lot of light skinned chicks just don't have the same experience that darker skinned chicks say, and they're a lot quicker to say some of these things than black women are. Darker skinned women are. Like my mother is dark skinned. The way that my sister and my mom talk about the experiences that they've had is sad. I'm not gonna lie. Like even what my mom had experienced from her own family. Damn, Tanya, you dark as night. You know, and it's like she's fair skinned. If we were to go back in time 300-400 years, you know what I'm saying? Like this would have been treated differently. And it's just, I think that same mentality bleeds in even in today. And so for her, I know she's saying she's for women. I think all women are for women, but I don't think she should at all be the face for black women experiences in general. It's just...
Is that what she positions herself?
Oh yeah, if you go to her channel, oh yeah. Her channel is dedicated to actually bashing black men. If you go to, if you look at all her videos, it's dedicated to bashing black men. So general.
She's not pro black man.
No. She's not pro at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. She encourages interracial dating swirling.
Yeah, there's definitely a number of pages like that just across the board. You really do have a lot of different types of black commentators that take certain positions. I don't like, my opinion on people who are bashing black men and bashing black women is that you stand on that position for a couple of reasons. One, you've had enough experiences in your life to where you feel like that's a justified way to view the world.
Yeah.
And then secondly, it's like you don't have enough experiences in your life to even put you on the side of being pro your race. You don't see the necessity of creating a mindset and creating an identity that doesn't allow all the messiness of your race to be on such public display. Because I think one aspect of being pro-black is that you tend to have an attitude towards black men and black women where it's like you're more understanding, you're more forgiving, you're more wanting to be like, yes, they may be making mistakes, they may have this and that, but at the end of the day, we need to love our brothers and sisters. So for example, one person that I follow on Instagram is Riza Islam. And whenever there's opportunity to comment on, what black women are doing or black men doing, he always takes a position where it's just like we should be understanding of them. We shouldn't bash them. We should try and, lead them in the right direction and all these other things, because the idea is like they are our people at the end of the day. So to bash them, you're not being pro-black. You're not creating that black unity. You're actually creating more fractures. So this is just someone that I feel like they're not a part of that. So I'm not even going to give them the same level of judgment, as I would someone who would, to me, is like maybe a little bit more contradictory, where they're pro-black sometimes and they're anti-black other times. To me, she wouldn't care what would happen at the end of the day.
And what's interesting is that I noticed what men do is we actively kind of criticize people sometimes. We actively try to destroy other men that we don't like.
Yeah.
And in this instance, for what you just said, I'm sure a lot of other women may feel the same way about her, but will never bash her. We'll never actively try to bash her. And that's something that is unfortunate. I think we need more of that so that we can identify and label something like this. One thing that I will say, that even though Kevin Samuels is very polarizing and I don't really agree too much with his swirling idea, I understand where it's coming from, but he actively says many times during his channels that he wants black people to get together. She doesn't. We can sit here all day talk about the weight, height, age, shit like that. It's unfavorable. It's not pretty to hear sometimes. But at the end of the day, we're not attacking you because of the color of your skin. If anything, we're talking about shit you can change. You can't change it unless you bleach it. And it's like, she's got this guy on here who's covertly racist speaking on black men, and she hosts it on her channel. She agrees with it. Now, we're only 5 minutes into it, but we
can watch a little more.
Yeah, because I probably got to get into this, actually.
If you want, you can skip ahead.
You want to come back to it? Because I got to jump into the match.
Okay.
Want to jump back into it?
Sure.